Hello, McFluffy52 here, back for Magic the Gathering Arena action. Today we're playing budget decks. I'm going to be trying to play a budget deck of each color, and today we're starting with budget green, well, because green's my favorite color. But yeah, so these decks, we're going to have 0 rares, and we're going to see how well we can do on the ranked ladder over the course of 20 games. I've already played 15 games with this deck, and so far, it's performed alright. But yeah, let's get into the deck. I'll explain some of the card choices. We're going to go through each card one by one just because I think that's important, especially if you're new to the game, kind of understand each of the components going into your deck. So, notably green, the color of creatures, and, swinging face, big creatures. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to play a creature-based aggro deck. So we try and kill the opponent over a short number of turns if we can. We're not as fast as red. Red can go really fast and kill on turn 3, turn 4, turn 5 relatively consistently. I don't think this deck is that fast, but we have some extra value, and we can kill somewhat fast in this deck. Anyway, so to be a good creature-based aggro deck, you need a bunch of creatures, and you need a pretty good curve. So we're playing 10 1-drops. So 1-drops that we're playing are Cenote Scout. This, when it enters, it explores. So explore reveals the top card of your library. If it's a land, you put it into your hand. Otherwise, you put a +1 counter on this creature. So this can be a 1-mana 2/2 if it's a non-land. And if it's a land on top of your library, you go ahead, put that into your hand. This improves your next draw and helps you hit your land drops. So it's just overall a very good kind of value 1-drop here. Evolving Adaptive. This creature is pretty much an all-star for being like a big 1-drop because it is 1 mana, enters with an oil counter, and then it gets +1/+1 for each oil counter on it. Now it grows because whenever another creature you control enters, if that creature has greater power or toughness, you put another oil counter on Evolving Adaptive. So if it sees a bigger creature enter the battlefield on your side, it will get bigger. So this works really well with Dryad Militant, which we're playing 2 copies of, just because it is a 1-mana 2/1, essentially. That's all we really care about. It does say if an instant or sorcery card would be put into a graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. So this is a little incidental graveyard hate, and I guess it works pretty good into mono blue decks that care about having a bunch of instant and sorceries. I'm looking at you, Haughty Jin. But yeah, these 1-drops allow us to potentially, if we have a bunch of them in our opening hand, we can just play them out and have a bunch of 2/2s or like 2-power attackers and get in a bunch of damage pretty early. What is our 2-drops? Well, we have Aloe Alchemist. This is a 2-mana 3/2 with trample, but you can also plot it for 2 mana. So when you plot it, it goes into exile, and you can cast it on a later turn at sorcery speed. So this is during your main phases, but when you plot it, it says when it becomes plotted, target creature gets +3/+2 and gains trample until end of turn. So for 2 mana, we can plot it, buff up one of our creatures, and then later on we can play it for free from exile. Cankerbloom. This is a 2-mana 3/2, but it also can be sacrificed if you pay 1. Sacrifice, destroy target enchantment, destroy target artifact, or proliferate. So all of these are very useful because sometimes your opponent has like very powerful artifact or enchantment, and you need to get rid of it. So Cankerbloom's our answer to that. It's also a good creature for 2 mana with 3 power. We can also sacrifice to proliferate, which is relevant because proliferate, what it says is choose any number of permanents or players, then give each another counter of each kind they already have. So this can allow us to proliferate the number of oil counters on Evolving Adaptive, or proliferate the number of +1 counters that we give with Snakeskin Veil. Talking about creatures, this is one of the big 2-drops in the deck because it is 2 mana, and it gets +1/+1 for each forest you control. So it is a 0/0, but for 2 mana, it's going to be, or like if you have 2 forests on the battlefield, it's 2 mana 2/2, and you have 3 forests on the battlefield, it's 2 mana 3/3, and it gets pretty big and out of hand. It does have Disguise. This isn't super relevant in the deck, but Disguise is, you can pay 3 generic mana, so any color, and put it down as a 2/2, face down as a 2/2 creature with Ward 2. And then you can turn it face up for its disguise cost. And when the Bloom-Kin is turned face up, you look for your 2 forests from your library, reveal them, put one into your hand, and one out the battlefield tapped. So that is another thing you can do. Not super relevant. You're generally not going to want to do that because it's kind of mana intensive and slow. You'd rather have the big body and swinging it in. Next card, this one is from Foundations. It is a 4 mana 4/4 Rhino with trample. So trample, if they have like a 1/1 blocker, we're going to trample over that and do 3 damage to their face. That's nice. That has trample already. We don't need to give it trample. But it says whenever you cast a spell that targets this creature, draw a card. So one important thing in all your decks is you're going to want card draw. And so Gnarlback Rhino is our card draw in this deck, or one of our card draw sources in this deck, because we can target it with a lot of our spells in this particular row. We'll go through those. But yeah, this is kind of a important card in the deck because it kind of influenced some of the choices I picked for the other cards we're playing that target this creature, so we can draw a bunch of cards and maybe restock our hand. Obstinate Baloth. Now this card is a really fun one because sometimes you can get it for free. It is a 4 mana 4/4. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. And if a spell or ability an opponent controls causes you to discard it, you get to put it onto the battlefield instead of putting it into your graveyard. So if your opponent's playing the 3 mana Liliana Planeswalker, they +1 and make you discard a card, well, you get to just jam Obstinate Baloth from your hand onto the battlefield because that would be discarding it, and so you get to put it onto the battlefield. That is all the creatures in the deck. We're notably playing 24 lands, which is your kind of standard land count. Generally, though, aggro decks skew closer to like 22 lands, just that you're kind of drawing into more action because you're not playing as many card draw sources, because then if you draw too many card draw sources, you don't have damage. Anyways, now the other important cards in this deck. These all target creatures we control. Audacity is a really awesome one. It's a 1 mana enchant creature. So when we cast this, we have to target one of our creatures. Yeah. And then enchanted creature gets +2/+0 and has trample. So this is a great way to give trample. Why is trample important in this deck? Well, Flourishing Bloom-Kin, it can get really big, but it doesn't have trample. So Audacity, if we can play this on Flourishing Bloom-Kin, we can give it trample and it buff its power so that we can swing in for a bunch of damage, and there's not much our opponent can do about it unless they have removal for our creature. Audacity is also great if the opponent has removal, because when it is put into the graveyard from battlefield, you get to draw a card. So notably it says from graveyard, or put into graveyard from battlefield. So like if your opponent removes the creature that you're targeting with Audacity while you're casting it, you do not get to draw a card. So that is an important thing to note, and a little thing that might be a little bit confusing if you're a new player. All right, Giant's Growth. We only have 2 of these, but I'm playing them just because I think when you're playing a pretty like budget aggro deck, 1 mana for 3 power and 3 toughness is just pretty good. It's as efficient as like one of the most efficient 1 mana pump spells you can get. It doesn't give us trample or anything like that, so that's not particularly awesome, but it can win you some games when the opponent blocks with their creatures, and then you pump up the creature that's unblocked to finish them off. All right, hard-hitting questions. This is a really important card in this deck because green, some of the things it struggles with is removing the creatures the opponents play. And hard-hitting questions is our kind of way of dealing with that, hopefully, because it says target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. So we can use this to hit planeswalkers or creatures the opponents control, but we have to target a creature we control. So if the opponent removes the creature that we're targeting with this spell, of course, that means that the spell won't resolve because now we don't have a creature to target. But this works really well with our big creatures like Flourishing Bloom-Kin, or it works really well with the Gnarlback Rhino, because if we target the Gnarlback Rhino with hard-hitting questions, we get to draw a card. And then lastly, we're playing 2 Snakeskin Veil. This is protection, which is important because if you're playing an aggro deck, one of the best things you can do is have your creatures not get removed And Snakeskin Veil gets to put a +1 counter on target creature you control, and it gains hexproof until end of turn. So this means it can buff our creatures, which can win you some games if the opponent's not paying attention, and you get to pump up the creature that's unblocked. But also gaining hexproof means that if the opponent targets one of your creatures with a removal spell, like Go for the Throat, and you then give it hexproof in response, your creature won't die, the spell will fizzle. So that is the deck, that is the pile of cards. Sorry for the lengthy explanation, but I figured it would be helpful to kind of explain everything, the idea behind the deck, and then we can go ahead, hop in some games, and see how we do on the ranked ladder. I am currently 9-6 with the deck. We're hoping to play 5 more games so that we can hit that 20 game count and see roughly how well this deck performs on the ranked ladder. But 9-6 I'm pretty happy with. That's a 60% win rate. But let's see how we can do. Okay, one of the important things when you're playing a lot of decks is mulliganing. And mulliganing just comes with a bit of practice playing the decks. And deciding whether or not this hand is good enough. This hand is questionable because we have 2 4-drops and those aren't going to be coming down for a while, and we don't have much to do the first few turns, especially if the opponent removes one of our creatures. I think I will mulligan. Hand's not much better, but we'll keep it. Put a forest away because we should hopefully draw into one, and keep all the other action cards in our hand. If you enjoy these kinds of videos, subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton. Helps me hit my goal of 1,000 subscribers. And yeah, also subscribe for the other 0 rare budget decks. I'm planning to do one for each color, so please do comment below. Let me know what color you'd like to see next, because I have a deck brewed up for each color. I'm not sure how good they are, but they're at least a start, so I can refine based off of what people are interested in next. Opponent probably Sultai Squirming and Merchants, I would guess, because they're playing. Okay, interesting. This is definitely not the best hand. We won't bother attacking because it has negative power thanks to Jace. I don't think this is going to be a 1 game. We just drew into a few too many lands. I think there is an argument to be made for cutting a land or 2 and then playing 1 or 2 more like creatures or action. Swing at Jace. Opponent has 3 mana open, so they could counter whatever we play or remove whatever we play. Okay, well, I kind of want to not lose my Gnarlback Rhino just because it's the only creature we have, but I think we're already in a bad spot here. I'm not really sure what our opponent is up to though, because they did mill us and not themselves. Okay, I figured they would probably respond to that. Okay, this is a little unfortunate number of lands. Do I play the Audacity? Sure. They still have 2 mana open, but okay, I guess we will replay the Cenote Scout again. Another land? Not a land. Okay, awesome. We will take that. Opponent seems to be on a control deck, actually. Which is definitely not a good matchup here, I don't think. Okay, the opponent has mana up. Well, we can hope. At least we'll draw a card even if they bounce my Gnarlback Rhino in response, because this is on cast. Okay, we do get rid of Jace. I'm swinging because I feel like it. And yeah, the opponent's on a ramp deck. They just drew a bounce heavy. Okay, so we're 4 colors. Mine as well, plot. The nice thing about this is we don't commit creature to the board and we still get to go up power. Or like we get to do more damage this turn and we don't put creature on the battlefield, so this is pretty good to the fact that the opponent might be casting a sweeper next turn. Since the opponent's casting a sweeper, possibly, maybe I should not play out the Cenote Scout, though they could also just be casting a big creature because they are ramping. I'll play Cenote Scout. It's only like a 1/1, so alright, keep the Snakeskin Veil, I guess. There's an argument to milling it, but if we keep our creature... oh yeah, I forgot, with Explore, you can either put that card back on top or you can put it into your graveyard. So I could have put that into my graveyard, which I probably should have done, but... Okay, that's actually very good. Very good for us. I will Snakeskin Veil now just because they already know that we have it, and this gives us a chance to draw a card. We don't get anything from playing these out for combat, so we probably should just wait until post-combat. The fact they played the Overlord means they probably don't have like a sweeper, so we're just gonna run everything out and hopefully next turn we win the game. They do have 8 mana, 9 if they have a land drop, so they did have a sweeper. Okay, well, it must have been choked on red mana, and so that's why they were unable to play it. Well, they're on 4. But I think this game's over. I don't think we can win from here. We'll play it out, though. Sometimes these games can be won. If you're gunning for as many wins as possible, definitely recommend, like, holding off conceding as much as you can. We have enough mana to instantly flip this up, so I might as well disguise it so the opponent has more trouble removing it, or maybe waste a Brotherhood's End. It was worth a shot. The opponent had the counter spell. Surprised they didn't draw cards. Oh wait, they didn't have enough mana. Yeah, that probably will do it because they can get Chandra back. So they're like a several color mill deck, because with Chandra is really cool planeswalker. It says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, copy it. You may choose new targets for the copy, and then that only triggers once each turn. But you can copy up Breach the Multiverse. Breach the Multiverse says each player mills 10 cards. For each player, choose a creature or planeswalker. Then put it in the battlefield under your control. They are Phyrexian in addition to their other types. Nice. That is actually a really cool thing to do with Chandra's -X. Deals damage to 2 different targets equals the X. Maybe we can surprise them. Surely this will work this time. How could they? They're gonna counter it twice. Dang. Yeah, Chandra copies spells on your turn as well as the opponent's turn. Triggers only once each turn, so means your turn as well as their turn. Well, GG. Okay, well this hand is excellent, I think. Because evolving adaptive into Flourishing Bloom-Kin means that we will be able to grow it. Now, we might want to play Cenote Scout if we're concerned about hitting our land drops, but I don't think we are, because we now have 2 more in hand. Opponent on Boros. Tap land might mean they're playing more control, or it could just mean they drew their tap land. They might be playing Burn. I think the Boros like Burn deck does play Restless Bivouac. Nope. Okay, I have no idea. Don't know what our opponent's doing. I will say, like, knowing what your opponent, or like having a good guess of what your opponent might be playing or doing, does help you win more games, because then you can kind of anticipate what they're going to be playing. But it looks like the opponent's, yeah, Boros equipments. That's kind of what I would have guessed by the boots. That is fine. And we'll play a land. This will grow the Bloom-Kin, and we'll play another Bloom-Kin. This will grow the adaptive, and then I will play hard-hitting questions to get rid of the Heartfire Hero, because Heartfire Hero gets counters whenever it's the target of a spell ability the opponent controls, and then when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So it can be a bit problematic, because it can grow, and then it can do a bunch of damage when it dies. Kemba Ka, honestly, I've been meaning to play an equipment deck with Leyline Axe and Kemba here, because when it enters the battlefield, you attach one target equipment you control to that creature. Creatures you control get +1/+1. So if you play Leyline Axe, which can start on the battlefield if it's in your opening hand, you play Kemba on turn 2, you can immediately have that equipped to Kemba, which is funny. Sheltered by Ghosts. Yucky, yucky. That card is so good. I will give you a hint. The mono white budget deck we will be playing Sheltered by Ghosts, because this card is very, very strong in general and in the best of 1 meta, I would say. Rose the Evolving Adaptive. Swing in. One has lifelink here though, so it's gonna be problematic. We're running out of cards in hand, which is bad, and we have 1-drops that might do pretty much nothing. So not happy to trade this Greenback Rhino, or Gnarlback Rhino. The art for this card is so nice. Okay. Yep. You got me there. Two mana open. They can do something with 2 mana. Concerning. Obstinate Baloth is kind of nice. The Cenote Scouts could help clear off the top of my library though. But I need one of them to hit a non-land, so that we can block Kemba with 2 creatures and then kill it. We're going to go for it. So we could also just play Cenote Scout if we draw a land from it. Play the land, play Obstinate Baloth, which also is probably better, because then we get 4/4 blocker, which is harder to kill to like Lightning Strike, which the opponent might have. They have 2 mana open, and it seems like they have an instant that's red. So my guess would be Lightning Strike, which is 2 mana, deal 3 damage to any target. Land? Opponent has Mishra's activation open, which is why it's pausing at everything I do for them. Okay, the opponent wakes up and play Obstinate Baloth, and then we'll swing in for 9. Eventually we will. Perhaps the opponent is caught up with something in the real world. Two cards. What could they be? They can make a cat with Kemba. Well, I don't think yet. I don't really want to hover Kemba, but... Oh, Mabel. That's kind of annoying. Yeah, for 5 mana they can create cats with Kemba. If we kill Kemba, we do get our creatures back, which would be pretty cool. We choose to give Mabel haste. A land. Oh. I mean, I don't want to hate lands, but yeah, Audacity sounds pretty good. Audacity sounds pretty good. I will swing in with the Bloom-Kin because then they kind of have to do something about it. Honestly, I could swing in with all of these. I don't think I mind trading too much. When another Kemba, Caw, Enduring, or another cat you control enters, attach equipment. And this is +1/+1. Okay, do we hold anything back? I mean, we have creatures here that can trade. Maybe I hold like the Evolving Adaptive back. And yeah, that sounds okay. Evolving Adaptive could get bigger if we get back our Flourishing Bloom-Kin. You're gonna trade Kemba? I would have traded Mabel way before Kemba, but... Wait, I should have just attacked with it all. Well, I should have attacked with all the 4-power ones probably, because then that would have forced another block here, but it's fine. We get our creatures back, get the Bloom-Kin, that grows the Evolving Adaptive, and I think we'll be fine. You know, they say math is for blockers. That's like a phrase. It's commonly said, but I think sometimes math should be done by attackers, and I may have missed something there. This gives other mice you control +1/+1, so I guess that's why the Heartfire Hero is a 2/2. Now it's going to be a 4/4 with haste, and trample, and vigilance. GG. Okay. We are gonna keep this, I think. I mean, we have 1-drop into 2-drop. There's a question of whether or not we want to hold off playing anything to Snakeskin Veil, but we're against the Candyman. Mono White Toxic? Mono White Phyrexians? What is the opponent up to? I gotta revisit other like Kindred or Typal decks because we have the 5-mana artifact from Foundations that gives creatures of the type you name a buff equal to the number of creatures you control of them, basically. At least when it enters, it puts counters on it. Equals the number of creatures you control. And then, no! They had the ossification. Oh, that's actually fine with us. That is fine with us. Another adaptive. Still not sure if the opponent's playing toxic or if they're playing... What I mean by toxic is this thing from this particular set where creatures have keyword toxic, and then whenever they deal combat damage, they give poison counters to the opponent equal to the number of the toxic value. I mean, I think I take one. I don't really want to waste my Snakeskin Veil on the evolving adaptive here. And Sentry. Okay, well, I will Snakeskin Veil that. I'll play the Gnarlback Rhino. Bloom-Kin could get bigger, but I do like... The opponent does look like they're on like a mono white toxic deck of some sort, but corrupted. So corrupted means we have to have 3 or more poison counters. Now this is what I was expecting if they were toxic. Jawbone Duelist, double strike, toxic 1. Very good with pump spells. You just had to kill it. You just had to kill it. I can't believe they did this. Audacity is very good, so we'll keep that. Put the counter on this. Now, it has 2 different counter types, so if we had like proliferate, we could proliferate the oil counter and the +1 counter on it, which would make it into like a 6/6 if we proliferate, which is pretty cool. But play this. This will enter as a 5/5. I'll grow that. Boom. Big damage. We're not close to being poisoned out, so I don't think we will do any blocking, just because if they have a pump spell with Jawbone Duelist, it has double strike, so it hits twice, and that could be pretty bad for us. Opponent ran out of removal. GG. Okay. Bloom-Kin hard hitting questions. Audacity. We go first. My gut is telling me we should mulligan, but Bloom-Kin is so good with Audacity and hard hitting questions. We just don't have any like protection, and we don't have any other action. And we don't have anything that we can do on turn 1. We have 10 1-drop creatures that you kind of want to see at least one of them in your opening hand, just because if you can start on turn 1, it's much better. But we're gonna have to start on turn 2 if I keep this. Oh my goodness. I really want to keep it. This is somehow worse, I think, but we'll keep it. Audacity might be able to replace itself. We have 24 creatures in the deck, so you should hopefully see like 2 of them in your opener. But alas, we are not so lucky. The opponent mulligan as well. Rakdos, that's concerning. Do we think we'll hit a land drop next turn? Because if I run out this Bloom-Kin and then they immediately cut it down, the 1 mana removal spell, this gets horrible. Oh my goodness. This feels so wrong, but I think I'm gonna wait a turn. Opponent is on zombies. It's not a land. Okay, well, I don't think we can keep waiting. Just hope the opponent is an aggro deck that's not playing lots of removal. And that maybe, just maybe, things will work out. Oh. Nope, they had to cut down. Okay. Well, that's game. You mulligan once, you draw a similar hand, and then you don't draw any lands. That is... Sometimes it's just not... It's not your game to win. You may cast it from your graveyard if a non-zombie creature died this turn. Well, this is a cool deck the opponents put together. I kind of like it. We with Undead Sprinter, and then you also have Defaced Gallery. This is a pretty good card for, okay. Just because I feel like I want to do something before we die, we'll play a Audacity. Then we'll play a surprise Giant Growth. Or Giant Growth. It's not Giants. Well, GG. Okay. It's the final round. Can we win it? Can we win it for Team Green? Opponent goes first. I don't really want to mulligan. We have more than one creature, and if we top deck a land, we'll be able to start jamming 4-drops, so maybe that's okay, but this is a very slow hand. I have to say, building these budget decks, I was surprised how much of like the power of each color is a little bit locked behind a few rares in each color. Like, for instance, mono black, you'd think, okay, mono black is pretty strong mono color in standard right now. In fact, I think it's one of the most popular decks in best of one is mono black mid-range. So you would think the budget version of that color would be okay, but it is not quite, or like, yeah, I wouldn't say it's okay, because you don't have the 3-drop that has death touch. It's 2/3. When it dies, it comes back with stun counters, and if it connects, it does half the opponent's life total. Like, you don't have that. You don't have the Annex that draws you cards. You don't have Liliana, which can just take over games. So yeah, there's a lot to be had in rares. Okay, so the opponent might actually be a go wide deck. Just an Azorius go wide deck, which honestly probably is pretty good. Because you have white for removal, you have blue for protection and counter spells. So, and you also have the convoke creature that draws cards. Maybe I should have played that Giant's Growth. We can use it to allow us to block the Sanguine Evangelist though, which is a pretty strong creature. No. Okay, I actually have a solution to this. Interesting. Okay, well. Do I care? No. I don't really want to spend the mana to sacrifice it, because then I can't block with the Bloom-Kin. Because I can't block and then pump with the Giant's Growth. So I really want to get rid of the Evangelists if they go in to attack. Play the Gnarlback Rhino next turn though, maybe, and draw a card with the Giant's Growth? Who knows? One does not go for any attacks with the Evangelist. Okay, land grows the Bloom-Kin. I want to put power to the board. I could play the Bloom-Kin and held up the Giant's Growth, but I should have swung in there. There's pretty much no downside to it. Well, I guess opponent has a lot of flyers. There's a 3-drop from Foundations that gives all flying creatures like a buff. Play that with Mockingbird, make some copies of it. Sounds fun. Yeah, I wonder if I should have attacked there. The opponent doesn't see a way out. I guess we're good. GG. Alright, well, that is 20 matches if I count correctly. Let me refresh my untapped stats. It was, okay. So we went 12-8 with the deck, which is a 60% win rate. Honestly, I'm quite surprised by how well we managed to do with this deck. I will say that we didn't really match against a lot of kind of the top deck lists in the format, so I think your mileage may vary, but I think at least this is a pretty good starting point for if you want to play green and you don't have any rare wild cards. Very low opportunity cost. A lot of us have tons of common and uncommon wild cards laying around, so if you're looking for something budget friendly and fun, you know, consider checking this out. Let me know what you want to see, what mono color you want to see next, because I do have all the decks for each monocolor brewed up, but I gotta start playing games so that I don't have to play like 20 games during the recording, right? Yeah, let me know. Also, I put a poll, well, not really a poll, but I put a post up on the community channel page asking what you'd like to see for a standard event, because I'm trying to do one standard event weekly. We're gonna make it on like Saturdays, but obviously this is Saturday right now when I'll be uploading this, so hopefully I'll get to it tomorrow, and then from then on each Saturday I'll try and post the day before asking what people would be interested to see in a standard event, and then I'll try and play it and see how well I do and then share my results. So let me know if you have any decks that you would like to see played in a standard event. If you don't know what standard events are, they are events where you pay like gold to enter or gems to enter, and then you can win prizes. So the reason why you might want to play in a standard event is because you can earn more rewards than you pay into it, and so if you win more games than you lose pretty consistently in standard events, you can kind of net value from just playing standard events over and over and over. I don't particularly love playing them because I don't really like putting gold on the line of my matches. It makes every time you don't draw into like anything but lands feel way worse. But yeah, let me know what you'd like to see, what next mono color you'd like to see, what deck you'd like me to play in a standard event, and thank you so much for watching. Have a nice morning, evening, night, afternoon, wherever and whenever you're watching. Ciao.